Hola, buenos dias, and ¿dónde está biblioteca? I'm Ran from Beyond the Blackboard. I am setting myself the challenge of becoming fluent in Spanish in 3 months. Now, over the next 13 weeks, I'm going to be challenging myself to do what I've never been able to do before, which is get my act together and actually learn a language properly and fluently in 13 weeks' time. At the end of this challenge, I'm going to record myself having a hopefully fluent conversation with a native speaker online to test whether I've actually managed to accomplish it. As I say, I'm going to be doing everything in my power to do this at an accelerated rate within the deadlines that I've given myself. I'm going to be drawing on my teaching experience, I'm going to be drawing on my research into learning theory and creating systems that you can also use at home to use this self-isolation time for something that is an opportunity. All resources are going to be shared down in the description. Now, the way I see being able to speak another language is essentially opening a whole new world, a whole fantastic point of view to your life. Put it this way, I'm going to be learning Spanish. There are 360 million roughly native speakers of English. Guess how many there are of Spanish? 450 million. There are more people that speak native Spanish than there are native English. So that is 450 million people in the world that I will have the opportunity to converse with, to learn how they live life, and to have a whole heap of opportunities with them that I can't even describe yet because they haven't happened. Now, for me personally, I'm also planning a big trip to South America where lots of people only speak Spanish out there. So that's a bit of an incentive for me as well. And if I don't give myself the challenge to do so now, I'm probably going to treat it as an afterthought and never really get around to it. There's also a whole heap of scientific studies suggesting that becoming bilingual makes you smarter. So learning a new language, the process of learning a new language can actually alter the way your brain works and help you with loads of your other subjects that you're doing as well. I've also heard reports that speaking in a different language can give you a different personality, and I really like the sound of that. There's this other Senor Ranulph out there who I've never met, nobody's ever met, but he sounds like a pretty cool guy. Now, a bit of background about me and languages. I don't have a great relationship with languages. In fact, I'd go as far to say I have fixed mindset around my language ability. I really don't believe in my core that I pick it up very well. And this is partly what I want to test for myself during this period. So I did do French for 10 years at school, and it's pathetic how much I can speak. I can just about recite parts of my oral. Ma maison est assez grande parce que le chat est très petit. J'adore la sportive. So yeah, 10 years of learning a language, can barely speak a thing. In fact, just to give you a bit of a taster about where my Spanish level is right now, have a look at this clip of me earlier today trying to say a very basic Spanish sentence. Porque no lo puede. Okay, so in future I'm going to be going over in much more detail how I'm progressing and how I'm implementing these systems, but I want to give you plenty to get started right now. So step number 1, make your goal smart. Now, making a goal smart essentially means that it's much more likely to happen. Smart means make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Now, I've gone into plenty of detail on a Google Sheet in the link in the description below. But essentially what I've done is made my goal of getting fluent in Spanish much more possible to track and measure and therefore achieve. So for instance, instead of just loosely saying I want to be fluent in Spanish, I've made it more specific by looking up something called the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, bit of a mouthful, and I've looked up criteria set for proficiency in language. And my goals are aligned with becoming B1 to B2 level, which is essentially intermediate speaking speaking Spanish, not necessarily writing or reading. I am interested in speaking at an intermediate level. I've also laid out how to test myself, as well as setting myself key time scales, like making it a 13-week project and setting myself between 2 to 3 hours of work of Spanish a day, because I need to fit it around my normal job, and you'll also need to fit it around your work as well. Then step number 2 is to set up your learning systems. Now, while I was setting up these learning systems, which I'm about to share, I had one question in my mind at all times, and that was, is the information I'm going to get with this system going to help me have a general conversation with someone in Spanish? Now, if the answer was no, I wouldn't include that in the system. If it was yes, I would make sure it was in there. Just to illustrate what I mean by that, I don't necessarily want to be learning words that I'm unlikely to use on my trip to South America. For instance, words like celery or prestige or transgression in Spanish is unlikely to be as useful as a word like sometimes or hotel or England. So I've made sure that the systems I've made are driving towards what's important as best as possible. So have I done that? Firstly, with vocabulary. What I've done is only taken the most commonly spoken 1,000 Spanish words and made sure I've learned them in the system that should get them in my head in about 15 days. I'll share that below. Now, then in terms of speaking and listening, now what I'd recommend is start speaking it as much as possible. In fact, in everything you're doing, you should be saying the words and sentences that you're forming out loud. I would also recommend getting in contact, especially in this self-isolation time, with any friends you know that speak Spanish, and start having conversations straight away, because it's just like ripping off a plaster, and that's really what the ultimate goal is to be able to speak it and listen to it and understand it. You could also get a Spanish tutor. One thing I'm doing is using a online service called italki, and I'm spending as little as £6 an hour talking Spanish to a native speaker. Now, if you're under 18 and wanting to use that route, definitely run it past your parents first. But if you don't want to speak live with a person straight away, there's also loads of audio things that you can use as well. One that I'm using is called Michael Thomas. You've also got free YouTube ones like Spanish with Paul, and these are a great way to just start speaking and hearing it from day one. And third part of the system is grammar, so understanding how the language is put together and seeing the words actually on a page is really going to help you speak it in the long term. What I've started using is Duolingo, which is by far the most popular learning platform in the world, and again, completely free. It's really fun as well, so give it a download and get started. And final thing to remember once you've sorted out your systems is to schedule it. Schedule time to actually do it, otherwise it might not ever happen. If you're at secondary school, what I'd recommend is an app called Adapt, which I talked about in my last video in much more detail. If you want to have a look at that, just click on that link above. If you're an adult, I just schedule it in whatever you normally use for your daily planning, whether that's a handwritten diary, or for me, I'm using Google Calendar. Just make sure that it's integrated into your day. Okay, so hopefully that is plenty for you to get started with learning whatever language it is that you want to do for your quarantine challenge. If you're starting the challenge along with me, please do comment below and let me know any challenges that you're facing along the way, so I can make content that will help you achieve your goals. And don't forget to hit that notification and subscribe button to keep track of future episodes. Hope it goes well, guys. Until next time, see you later.